Welcome, Bitcoiners, and Nolan Bowerly here, host of The Breakup. Today we did our show on the ratchet effect and how if you take a step back for a second, you can see that the feedback loop that created all of these arguments for a one world government, more government spending, more centralization of government authority and control, and everything that went into the thrust of the last era, the fiat era, is breaking apart. If you take one step back, you'll see that tons of discussions this week about maybe the war in Ukraine not going the way the propagandists said, and some people starting to say that America's in over its head. You've got, of course, reaction to Zelensky this week saying money might not be enough. You might have to send over your sons and daughters, right? So the dialogue quickly changing. You've also got ESG and the complete collapse of another system that would send more and more money towards a collusive effort between Wall Street and Washington, D.C. Looks like it fell apart. Vanguard has withdrawn $7 trillion from the fund. I argued for a while now that Mark Carney, former governor of the Bank of Canada, governor of the Bank of England, and head of the Bank of International Settlements, who helped set up the huge ESG fund which exists, it was trillions of dollars. I argued a year ago when he called for the Canadian government to use martial law and to go into every Canadian's bank account and follow the money and stop the trucker protest. I argued then that he would become the greatest financial loser in the history of the world, that the Carney clown show would be the end of ESG because he's pretty dumb. And it happened. The feedback loop is broken there too. So the ratchet effect of no feedback in fiat, which allows for expansion of central governments, expansion of central control, breaking on that level too. Energy, all the dialogue around it is changing. Next would be health, right? We had Joe Rogan and Russell Brand, two of the biggest podcasters in the world yesterday, talking about health, talking about the personal responsibility behind health, absolutely not talking about endowing more people with authority over our health, laughing at Bill Gates and his physical lack of health and what lack of authority he is on the subject. I think in a lot of ways also within this whole idea of personal responsibility and no longer consolidating power in a central authority. And finally, Twitter files yesterday talking about how the expert class that would be around to help us be guarded from misinformation itself are the greatest purveyors of misinformation out there. So all calls for government involvement in censorship, in American people's rights to have freedom of speech, falling apart before our eyes. So in many ways, the previous era, with the lack of feedback loop and the ratchet effect, created a scenario where you had more and more people talking about centralized control, centralized authority, and that was the reflex. Now we see personal responsibility becoming the main issue, and in many ways, it's laughable to even consider Joe Biden as current president the leader of the free world, right? It's kind of funny when you even say it out loud. Satoshi Nakamoto and the ideas behind Bitcoin, the ideas behind personal responsibility are becoming the actual organizing principle around the free world. And in many ways, Satoshi Nakamoto now is the leader of the free world. And the US president no longer tied to the title that has been earned over time. So if you want more content like that, please join us every morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, YouTube, Twitter. We talk about all this kinds of stuff. We talk about the impending Bitcoin era. Thanks, everyone.